Join us at Pole Pole, where Dorcas shows us a new perspective of what the African community is doing now.
Hello, welcome to another fabulous edition for your viewing pleasure. We are in the heart of Melbourne City, right here at Pole Pole. I'm your host, Dorcas, and this is a new perspective only on Oz African TV. Today we begin with a bang, thanks to the outfit that is Cool Out Sun, and then I'll be joined by Nui Moon, who is part of the band as well as Didital Afrika. And then I'll introduce you to a beauty queen on a mission to change the world one sash at a time, Gundani. We'll go around town to see what's happening in our community, and in keeping with the bang, KG is also here to perform his latest track and to also tell us what he's been up to in the community. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to party, so Cool Out Sun, take it away.
Yo, here is the anthem to get you cheering and chanting from at your chest. Yes, we be commanded, demanding that you come give us your very best. Yes, no cushion for tushes, we took it, we push it, but on the edge. Yes, slow cooker, we simmer the dinner and throw in something fresh. Yes, fish stew with fufu, the old galley. Fistfuls of this food, you chew chally. Pit bowls or shit stools in my line, pride proudly prime the skyline and sundial in the time to go rock the body, yo. Rock the party, everybody jamming in the chassis. Rooms thinking of stacked up, man, and boom, nanny, nanny. Boom, bap in the hand, clap, clap is ferocious. Fools never get slapped back to when Pharaoh's lit. With the writings on the wall like the origins of all religions and Kemet. To leave you all in all, leave you spinning on the cement. This is the moment to do it, cause if you don't, you know you will regret. Missing your chance for atonement of your indigenous spirit, time to free it. From cornered under plunder of values who wanna keep it all a secret. Though the more they try to bind us from the wonders, the more like Stevie we see it. Cause we too high to reside in Qatar's from Calcutta to Osaka, or worshipper, Basana Nangrata. Good nutters, no nutters, we true lovers of humans that have good manners and pure language. Who you damage has too savage, so choose passage. The few manage to do, I'm as cool carnage, we challenge you to vanish.
My first guest today wears so many hats that I'm not even sure which one to pick right now. But what I can tell you is he is a talented producer and a musician. He loves to travel the world to learn about his and other people's cultures that ultimately informs his creative practice. Joining me now is the fabulous Nui Moon. Hello.
Great to be here.
The many outfits that you're actually part of. You know, right. Your Future Roots, Didital Afrika, Cool Out Sun, tell us about
all the small parts that make up the big musical story or picture, I guess, of my endeavor. But yeah, Didital Afrika is a new project, which is kind of like an Afro house with live percussion and ethnic chanting and bringing, I guess, like indigenous African music into the modern world and onto the dance floor. And we've got Cool Out Sun, which is kind of like Afrobeat, hip hop. We've got Lamin Sonko, Enfer Jones, Jay Smith, the producer from Remy, and myself.
Yeah.
Also have the Public Opinion Afro Orchestra, which is releasing an album also next week too here. So I'm part of that outfit as well.
My gosh, that's incredible. Now, being a part of all of these, you know, and meeting with all of these people, and I know that you recently traveled to Africa.
That's right. To
learn a little bit about, you know, yourself, the culture and all of that. How do you marry all of these things together?
Well, I suppose I started traveling as an African Australian born in Australia. You know, I grew up here and understood this culture, but I was always fascinated to go and visit my father's culture and to explore Africa as a whole. So I've done a lot of trips, I think at least more 12 or 14 trips to Africa and maybe 5 or 6 different countries. My father's Ghanaian, Moroccan, or part of the sub-Saharan trade route of ethnicity. So I've trained there with various musicians. I've recorded various musicians there, and I brought those recordings back to Australia and I suppose interchanged and worked with Australian musicians and made a kind of cross-cultural exchange of music. So that's the purposes of those visits.
Yeah. How do you navigate your identity?
Well, I think music is a big expression of that. You know, I grew up listening to popular popular music, funk and soul and hip hop, but then going back to Africa, I studied the traditional arts of African music with African drumming and chanting. So the meeting of those two, and my DJ personality is future roots, so it's the roots and culture meets the future and expression. So
Didital Afrika
had
a huge Didital Afrika had a huge year.
That's right.
You guys have only been together or around for eight months.
8-9 months, that's right.
Yeah, and then you've accomplished so much. Do you want to tell us about?
Well, we did a national tour of like 15, 16 shows, as well as performing in Indonesia. We went to Europe and performed in Berlin and Ibiza in Spain. I think people are interested in African music and new ways of expressing it. And I guess we've touched on a nerve in terms of people can relate to it in many different ways.
Yeah. You guys are performing. There's a big performance coming up.
Yeah, there's a couple of festivals coming up that's really important. I mean, probably the most important one for me is Warm Adelaide, which is, for me, the premier world music festival in Australia.
It's amazing to have this chat and to catch up with you and to see what you guys are doing. I wish you all the best. I look forward to seeing what's coming up for you. I'm sure you'll just, keep climbing and just creating wonderful music.
Thanks. Thanks for having us, Dorcas.
It's my absolute pleasure.
Yes.
My next guest today is a passionate humanitarian who's involved in charity work here in Australia and abroad. She also helped raise funds for the UN Women as well as Queen Elizabeth's Children's Charity in Zimbabwe. Joining me now is the gorgeous, reigning Miss Grand Australia, Kim Gundani. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm fantastic, and what an introduction.
Now, as I said just before, you just came back from Myanmar.
Myanmar, yes.
How was that?
It was incredible. So I was participating at Miss Grand International 2018 as Miss Grand Australia, of course, and it was just one of the most surreal experiences where you get to meet 75 of the most beautiful women, but they're not only beautiful from the outside, they have so much passion for what they do. And our advocacy stopped the war and violence. Here in Australia, it's domestic violence. But so it was an amazing experience to be there and come into the top 20, which was an incredible honor.
And I know that you are surrounded by some incredibly strong women in your life. Right. Your grandmother and your mom, being a single mom. Tell me about your relationship with your grandmother.
When people ask me, why did you ever decide to become part of a beauty pageant? And it is really about, my grandmother who spurred me on. I'd always wanted to be part of a pageant, and I didn't feel as though people like me could do something like that. I'm a nerd, I love to go to law school and things like that. But unfortunately, my grandmother passed away when she was living her dream. So she was traveling to the Seychelles, and she passed away in Dubai before she actually got there. So from that really tragic experience, I discovered that I'm living life in such a tentative way. I'm acting as though I get a chance to do this all over again, and then when I come back, I'll do exactly what I wanted to do the first time. And she'd always encouraged me to go for it, and my mom as well, who is super supportive of all my ventures. And I decided to apply, but really what drove me to Miss Grand Australia was the advocacy. And looking beyond the outside, it really is about having a heart of service. How can I, as an individual, help change the world? And that was what really encouraged me to start.
There's a lot of negative stereotypical things that go on out there. So to see somebody like yourself.
I can't sit back and go, oh, I wish I could see more people representing African Australians in a positive light. I love the quote that says you have to be the change you want to see. And it is up to you as an individual to go out and do that. Currently, I'm an ambassador for the Ballarat African Association. And with that, we're tackling gang violence with Victoria Police, as well as the Department of Health and Human Services and the Minister of Multicultural Affairs. So we're coming together and having community leaders stand up and be counted, because at the end of the day, you're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution. You can't let someone else be in control of your narrative and your story. So that's something that I think it should employ all of us to do something in our own communities.
To younger women out there who are surrounded by the stereotype of, you want to be a beauty queen, there's no brains there, like, you know, I mean, you said it, you're a law student. What do you want to tell those young women who want to get into the field and hopefully use the platform to make change?
You know what, I would say that when you're coming into pageantry, you really have to know why you're there. Why are you in this space? Are you here for yourself, or are you here to create change? You can't just be the stereotypical beauty pageant queen anymore. You need to be someone who is open to reaching out to people, having a heart of service. And I would honestly say that from my experience, I didn't start out as a model, and I'd never done any beauty pageants up until this point. Finding people in the industry who are doing it way better than you. Emailing them and doing that sort of thing has really brought so many wonderful people into my life, and I've been able to go to incredible places because of Miss Grand Australia, the organization, and have an incredible team. And yeah, just be open to the experience, but also realize that it's not about you. It might look like that from the outside, but make sure that you have a heart of service and you want to change the world or inspire someone to do something out of their comfort zone. Yeah.
Amazing, what a great advice. Thank you so much for stopping by.
You.
We will watch you keenly, see what's next, and we wish you all the best. And
Thank
you know,
you
the
so
incredible
much.
work that you do, please keep doing that.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time.
You're most welcome. We are at Federation Square to celebrate African culture at African Music and Cultural Festival. Probably the biggest festival that celebrates African culture in Victoria. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get around and talk to some people.
You know they easy,
Yeah, it's really good. Today we're having an amazing day. We organised the stalls, we stuck up the posters and the signs. A lot of people turned out, more than I've seen last year, which is amazing. I'm loving it, having so much fun.
Now guys, I mean, first of all, we can't go past this beautiful painting, which you were presented by today. Can you tell us a little bit more about, you know, this situation here?
Well, Andrew's been a long-term friend of the African Australian community. He continues the great work he does with the community, and that's why we're so proud that the African Australian community decided to commission a painting of Andrew by one of our artists there to showcase and say our appreciation for the great work he's done for us.
Amazing. And Andrew, how does that make you feel?
Well, yeah, actually, it makes me feel quite humble, really, because, again, they were such lovely words from Fred, and Fred is someone that just gives and gives and gives to all different communities, but in particular the African Australian communities.
Why AMCF? Look, I just thought that I work for professional services organizations. I've been doing that for the last 11 years, been working in professional environments for the last 17 years as a chartered accountant, a management consultant, and I help organizations improve their operations and their financial performances. And I just thought, how can I transfer those skills I've learned in the corporate environment to my African Australian community to help raise the standard and also, more importantly, help redefine the image of the African Australian in a more positive manner. We've got lots of African Australians that are excelling in all walks of life. We've vast majority of African Australians are law-abiding people that are contributing to the advancement of Australia day in, day out. Their stories are not being told, and the stories that have been told are more of the negative stories about the African Australians. That's what carries the headlines. That's not right. We don't condone those type of behaviors, but it's also important to also show another side of the African Australian community. And so we thought, let's show it through music, culture, art. It's not just Fred that makes this festival possible. True. Yes, I've got the vision. Yes, I've got the drive, but we've got a solid team. We bring the best talents, the best skills of the African community together to showcase something for the entire African Australian community. That's what I love about the festival.
So far, it's so good. Yeah.
I love the music. It's amazing. Everyone's all together.
And as Africans, and you know, particularly with what's been happening in the media and all of that, when events like these happen, how does that make you all feel?
When we come all together in a positive space, it's very empowering. Yeah.
I feel like this is a true representation of us as Africans, you know, having fun and enjoying ourselves, because that's part of our culture. So I feel like it shows it to everybody else, and it gets us to really have fun and not dwell on what we're seeing in the media.
So we're there really to do advocacy in terms of policy development, in terms of program development, in terms of legislative development, and how it impacts our communities in order to encourage them to be more included, valued for their contribution, and that's exactly what we've got here today.
It's a great change. It's been a long journey, so I came here 14 years ago as a refugee, and at the time it would be really rare to see black people in the city, let alone in the police force. As you can see, there's another police officer there of African background as well. And when I joined 3 years ago, we had very few police officers, but there's been a massive program to attract people of African background within Victoria Police. And it's just a way to showcase multiculturalism. We've got black people in the police force, and that's a great thing. Philosophies have fallen by the wayside.
You literally just walked in.
I just walked in, yes.
And what do you think so far?
It's absolutely amazing. I'm loving the vibe of it. I'm loving seeing different faces, not just African faces, Asian faces, Australian faces, Middle Eastern faces. It's amazing. Loving it.
It's great.
Honestly,
great.
amazing.
Honestly.
The weather's great. Everyone came out. It's having a good time.
Yeah. If you're not here, you should be.
Oh, we are enjoying it very much. It makes us proud to be here today. We are so proud of what's being presented.
Amazing. And I know that, Stephen, you work with the City of Melbourne to progress the African community. When events like these happen, how does that make you feel?
It makes me so proud. You can see the many hats that I wear. City of Melbourne, Africa Day. Africa Music and Cultural Festival, so everything that is African.
Understand, you'll be finding out this thing. Not easy, but man don't understand.
From teaching music and dance all over Australia to telling potent stories through his lyrics, my next guest is a true voice of the global community. Joining me now is the wonderful KG.
Dumela, nice to see you. How are you?
I'm good, my Khaya, Dumela.
Dumela.
So awesome to have you.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
You are in Melbourne. You came to AMCF, just got off that hot stage. How was that?
Yeah, it was great. I loved everything about it. That was my first time being there. And it really took me back to when I was a child. I went to see Hugh Masekela in a festival in Mafikeng, and it gave me that same kind of memory, just the smell of I think they were cooking some African barbecue at the back, and the musicians and all the dances and the celebration of African culture. It was really good, and I was just, happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, it was amazing. I think they had about 10 different dishes from different cultures, from different African cultures. So that strong smell. It was beautiful.
It was.
So
it was
good.
Really
It was
good.
really good. You do a lot of work with young people in the community. Do you want to talk to me about that?
I think for me, it's all about representation and being a positive role model to young people. Myself, I had a year 8 and year 9 teacher who was from Africa, and he was a very mixed bag of African nations. I can't really remember, but I remember the impact he had on me getting into music, getting into dance. So it's kind of like my passion, and what I'm passionate about is doing the exact same thing. So I've traveled around Australia doing music, teaching dance, and just giving a sense of self-worth to young people across Australia.
You know, I know, you know, we talk about positivity and doing the great work to increase more of that, but I also know that in your music, you know, you are very vocal about what's happening right now where we are in terms of racism. How do you work around that to also help you to remain positive?
Yeah, I think it's a journey. It's all part of a journey. Like my first single, Mabo Mountain Mandela, that I put out was kind of like exactly what you said. It was kind of like power to the people. I mean, you can't really do a song about Nelson Mandela without having the protest kind of aspect about it. And then I kind of, I went into another single called Black Boy, which was more of the pain that racism causes. And I think my new single, Change, is exactly what you said. It's more of a positive conversation of what I'm trying to do with my music, and show people that, you know, we can act positively to change racism and change what's happening in our communities. So that's, like you said, I just want to grow into that, but same time, it needs to be called out when it's happening. So.
Yeah, that's true. And you spoke about an accolade that you've just been presented with.
Yeah,
in Canberra.
Exactly, in Canberra, there's a young African society community down there, which is great because all the embassies and everything obviously is in Canberra. And I was presented with the Afrocentric Award for music. So it was great. It was great because my mum grabbed it straight away. She was very, very proud in front of all her friends. Yeah. And no, it was just, for me, it was more like the African community honouring me for all the stuff that I do with the kids, and that's what it was about. And so my kids from my dance school were all there, and I was just, humbled and happy to be there.
Well, you deserve it all because, you know, you do great work, and I think it's important to be acknowledged for it and be seen, you know, because that way you can keep going. And so
yeah, it gives you the motivation to keep going.
I know, and you know, talking about keep going.
Ooh.
You're going to perform?
Yeah, I'm going to perform my new single, Change. I'm really excited. I hope you guys enjoy it. And yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Take it away.
Yeah, yo, systematic oppression. Yo, it leads to depression. And man, we learned every lesson, but they keep changing the question. When will we have peace of mind? I can't keep pressing rewind. The past is still on my mind. I need more time to unwind. Time moves on too fast, and still my people are lost. We're in a whole nother class, and still expected to pop. But all our culture, they love it. See, they're just trying to cover. They strip it down and maintain all the power and fame. Commercializing the game. Prophets rebranding the name. Trying to create their own lane, but never sharing the gains because the system's the same, different name, the same aim, bringing stress in my brain, but we got to maintain. How can we rise above it? Cause if we're from it, we're of it. Just living life for the profit, pay no respect and no homage. I'm not saying I'm perfect, sometimes I feel so worthless, living a life with no purpose. Maybe people feel like it's not worth it. Damn, one's better than none. Let's make that change. Your story's not done, there's room on that page. Forget about your past, don't worry about your age. It's time to be free, up and away. One's better than none, let's make that change. Your story's not done, there's room on that page. Forget about the past, don't worry about your age. It's time to be free, up and away. My people get three choices: a bag, box, or sell, an unholy trinity. If it's easy, it ain't worth it in this life, better believe me. There's a lot of people sleazy, living greasy, it's so cheesy. Got no time for all these games, all these rappers are the same. Spewing poison, it's so lame, it's a shame, they're so vain. You got the power to change, hope you realize one day you're still set in your ways. But I pray for better days, and I know you're underage, you're just trying to make a name. Let me show you the way to affect real change. Yeah, one's better than none, let's make that change. Your story's not done, there's room on that page. Forget about your past, don't worry about your age. It's time to be free, up and away. One's better than none, let's make that change. The story's not done, there's room on that page. Forget about your past, don't worry about your age. It's time to be free, up and away. My people
get three choices: a bag, box, or sell.
My people.
Unholy trinity of fate.
Yeah, my people.
Get three choices: a bag, box, or sell.
My people. Come on. My people get three choices: a bag, box, or sell. An unholy trinity of fate, worse than hell. My people get three choices: a bag, box, or sell. Come on. Yo, my people get three choices: a bad box or sell. An unholy trinity of fate, worse than hell. The narcotics we sell, cause of the classes we fail. Our community's unwell, but we have to prevail. And Well, I know you heard this story before. Another youth on death's door, mother's tears on the floor. All this pain I couldn't ignore. Yeah, I swear to God, we gotta do more. Talk to 'em. One's better than none, let's make that change. Your story's not done, there's room on that page. Forget about the past, don't worry about your age. It's time to be free, up and away. One's better than none, let's make that change. Your story's not done, there's room on that page. Forget about your past, don't worry about your age. It's time to be free, up and away.
My people get 3 choices: a bag, box, or sell. An unholy trinity of fate worse than hell.